Good morning, students. How are you? Good. Okay. Very good. It should be better. Okay. Welcome to SJC. I am Rajendra. I will teach you biology. Before starting, I would like to share one thing. Read thoroughly whatever just we are giving you in a form of notes or in a form of slides or in a form of class. Okay, so let's come to the next chapter, that is second chapter, tissue, the building blocks of life. Before starting tissue, I would like to tell you one thing, one step before, that is cell. I know I have told you, but I just recall your memory because the base of tissue is cell. So, if someone asks you what is cell, that means a cell is the structural and functional unit of life. And why it is called structural and functional, I have told you, because it is the smallest part or smallest structure of the body or the living being, so it is called the structural unit. And why it is called the functional unit? Because all the body functions are performed in this cell, so it is called the functional unit. Okay, so now the chapter is tissue. So start, what is tissue? Tissue is a group of cells which have same origin, same structure and same functions. That is known as tissue. You can say simply, if someone asks you what is tissue, yes, you can say him or her, a group of cells which have same functions, same structures and have same origin, that is called tissue. Okay? Or you can also say him or her, tissues are a group of similar cells performing the same functions and have the same origin. Okay? The study of tissue is known as histology. As I have told in the case of cell also, the study of cell is cytology. Clear? Now we come to the types of meristematic tissue. That means before starting, the tissue of two types, that is plant tissue and animal tissue. And the plant tissue, again they are categorized by the meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue. Okay, so here the types of meristematic tissue are there. According to the position, the meristematic tissue are divided on the three basics types, that is known as apical meristematic tissue, intercalary meristematic tissue and lateral meristematic tissue. Let us take one by one. This figure is also asked in the exam. Just imagine this figure. Just capture this figure in your mind. If someone show you later on, just tell me on which tissue this figure is concerned. So just you 1 second, just take a 1 second and tell him, yes, this is related to meristematic tissue. Or here in the meristematic tissue, it is also nominated here, the first the apical part or the apical meristematic tissue, or in the lateral meristematic tissue in the downward, and in between the intercalary meristematic tissue are there. apical meristematic tissue, the name indicates apical, that means apex or the apex part of the plant. Okay, where the apical part, that means the growing part of the plant, where the growing region are there, it is responsible for the growth of the plant. Whatever it is, top growth or whatever it is, the down growth, as in the case of root. Okay, the terminal part of the root is known as root hairs, and in that place the apical meristematic tissue are found there. So it is located on the growing parts, or it is responsible for the growing region. Whatever it is apical in the sense of shoot, or whatever it is the downward below the earth, it is the root. Okay, now we come to the lateral meristematic tissue. Lateral, that means in the case of diameter, you can say that also simply way. Lateral, that means in the case of diameter, or you can say that the girth also. Girth, that means the thickening, or the it is responsible for the thickening of the plant. Okay, meaning how the plants mature their thickness, the lateral meristematic tissues are responsible for that. That is the main way. Or the main tissue which is responsible for the lateral growth is known as cambium. Or under the process of secondary growth, you can also say that, or the secondary growth, in the secondary growth process, the cambium does or attain the maturity of the lateral growth. It is found between the xylem and phloem. Clear? Now, intercalary meristematic tissue. Intercalary meristematic tissue, it is found in the node and internode part. Yes, here you can see that in the middle part of this figure, where the nodes are arising. Nodes, that means where the branches are arising actually. Branches or the sub parts of the plants are arising, leaves are arising. That place is the intercalary meristematic tissues are there. Okay, so first of all, what did I just told you? Just what did I tell you? In the case of meristematic tissue, apical meristematic tissue, lateral meristematic tissue, and intercalary meristematic tissue. Now we come to the in the same way permanent tissue. Okay, so let us say permanent tissue. What is permanent? Permanent, the main just the name itself indicating permanent. That means fixed, nothing else. Or you can say that also the tissue which does not divide actually. Just in the case of what we have just taught you, or you have learned today, in the case of meristematic tissue, we have just taught they are actively dividing cells. But in the second type of tissue was permanent tissue, and this is the tissue which was discussing. Permanent tissue, that means the tissue in which they cannot get their dividing capacity, or you can also say that in the other language, they have lost their ability to multiply, in which they cannot grow their they cannot attain their growth. And in the same way which we are not attaining the growth, you can say that the cells of this tissue may be dead or may be living. On the basis of their functions performed, the permanent tissue can be supporting, conducting, and protecting. Okay, so in the case of supporting tissue, the permanent tissue is of three types: parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. parenchyma. Yes, you can see here parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Now, just I want to give you a different types of plant tissues are there. Just look at a glance. First, plant tissue. They are just dividing in two types. What I have told you, meristematic tissue, actively dividing cells. In the case of permanent tissue, non-dividing cells. Okay. Again, the meristematic tissue, they just divide again on the basis of their what? Meristematic tissue, they are dividing on the basis of their position, apical, intercalary or lateral. I have told you all the things about the apical, lateral and intercalary meristematic tissue. Now we come to the permanent tissue, that is again they have two types, simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. We are in the simple permanent tissue and supporting tissue. And after completing this, we will come to the complex permanent tissue or conducting tissue. So, let us take one by one what is simple permanent tissue, and it is of three types, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay, so let us take parenchyma. Yes, parenchyma. Actually, the parenchymatous cells are looks like, you can see here also, the cells of this permanent parenchymatous tissues are the thin walled and oval or maybe round or polygonal sometimes. The cells are loosely packed, and you can see here also the between two cells the intercellular spaces are there. You can see here also the first of all, just the top of there, you can see that the intercellular spaces, that means between two cells the gaps are there, so it is called the intercellular spaces. Okay. Each cell encloses a single large vacuole. You can see here also there is a large vacuole in the center. Okay, and have a cytoplasm and a prominent nucleus are there. You can see here also nucleus, cytoplasm and vacuoles and intercellular spaces are there. These are the characteristics of parenchymatous cells. Apart from this, there is a very good characteristics of parenchymatous is also concerned. They are responsible for the stored food materials. Or you can say that I'm giving you the example of potato, sweet potato. In this, the parenchymatous cells are there to store the food material in the case of starch or maybe. Apart from this, the parenchymatous cells also form the basic packing tissue that protect the internal tissues. That means if someone harm the plants, they just what they do actually, they perform a packing material. Because after packing, what does it mean? If I am just harming someone plants, I will just harm only the packing of the parenchymatous tissue, not even the major tissue which is responsible for many things, or the major tissues. Okay, so you can say that it also defends the major tissues or cells. Okay, the third is the in the leaves of green plants, parenchymatous tissue contain the chloroplast. I have told you it is found in almost all the parts of the plant. So the parenchymatous cells which is found in the mesophyll cells of the leaves, and it contains the chloroplast. That parenchymatous cells are known as chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma. What we call it? We call it chlorenchyma, not parenchyma. Okay, clear or not? Just I am revising you once again. The parenchyma in mesophyll cells of leaves they contain the chloroplast, okay, and the cells which contains the parenchyma which contains the chloroplast is called as chlorenchyma, not parenchyma. It is to be remembered. Okay. Now in the same case there is a hydrophytes. So many hydrophytes are there which just floats on the float of the water. Actually what happens, in their parenchymatous cells the air are filled, and for that they just float on the floor of water, and that parenchymatous cells are known as parenchyma. What we call it? Parenchyma. Now we come to the cholenchymatous cells. Okay, cholenchymatous cells, it is just looks like somewhat related to the parenchymatous cells, but something different. You can see here also. Yes, you can just enlarge and you can imagine what is the difference between parenchyma and cholenchyma. Just you can see here. Parenchyma, it is parenchymatous cells, and this is cholenchymatous cells. Have you come to know that? Okay, what is the difference is? Yes, good. In between two cells, the gaps are not, or you can say that a very close gaps are there, or in the edges are something there. You can say that the cellulose are there in the edges of the cells, and just they are just looking like a pointer. That means the thickening of the cells are called as cellulosic. What does it actually do? It is just internally each cell possesses a large central vacuole. You can see here also in the figure. Cytoplasm and nucleus are as it is as in the case of parenchymatous. It is found beneath the epidermis in the stems and petiole or leaf stalk in the dicot stem. Actually, what happens in the case of dicot stem, it gives support parts of the plant providing the tensile strength. Tensile, you know, it gives the elasticity of the branches of the plants. Okay, and rigidity also, that means stiffness also where it required, or you can say that in the case of the veins or in the many parts of the plants it required the tensile as well as the rigidity. So both where it is required it provides there. Now we come to the sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma, the third and the most important, it is asked normally. The sclerenchymatous cells are of two types mainly, sclerites and fibers are there. Okay. Actually, what happens in the sclerenchymatous cells, the protoplasm are dead, or they can just get maturity, or the tapering ends are there. They have the tapering ends are very small, narrow, and the protoplasm become dead. The cell wall is very thick due to the deposition of lignin. Lignin word is very important in the case of a sclerenchyma. It is often asked in which tissues the lignin cells are found. You will have to just tick the sclerenchymatous cells, or which act as a cement and hardness. You have feel when you just eat the pear, there is a glittering on your teeth are there, or you can say when you just eat it, there is a crunching sounds are soft crunching sounds are there. That is nothing but the sclerenchymatous cells are there, which is found in the pear. Or even the fibers are there in the hemp or the coconut hairs are there, which is made up of fibers are there, and many, you can say that the walnut, the outer covering of the walnut, which is made up of the sclerenchymatous cells, the sclerites and fibers are there, and so many places it is found. Sclerenchymatous or the sclerenchymatous cells provides mechanically strength to the plant's part. It protects the plant from environmental forces like strong winds, makes plant hard and stiff, and husk of coconut is made up of sclerenchymatous tissue. Got it? Okay, very good. Now we come to the second, that is conducting tissue. As I told you, in the permanent tissue it is of two types, that is supporting and conducting. Supporting, I have told you, it is of three types, that is parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Now we come to the conducting tissue, that is known as complex type permanent tissue, that is known as xylem and phloem. Actually, xylem and phloem are two conducting tissue which is responsible for two functions mainly. First, when we come to the xylem. Xylem, it is responsible for sucking the water and minerals from the soil and get to reach the leaves. And what does the phloem do? When the process completed of photosynthesis, the phloem start working. It distributes the food material which has been prepared in the leaves to all parts of the plant. That is, two functions are performed by these two tissues, and we will continue later on in a described manner in the next video. I hope you are just enjoying the e-classes, and if you like this video, please subscribe the SJEC channel. Thank you and have a nice day. We will meet on the next video.